So, evening everyone, Psychic Gavin, and Spirit have been channeling to me, and they're still with me now, but about topic of sort of healing and balance of the body, but also to do with prohibition and some laws, so you can kind of understand where it's leading from and to in your understanding. So we will start kind of with cannabis, so to speak. Is this recording now? It should be. So, I guess I'm going to start, as I said, without balance, but let me start with a question. And it's a question people think they know the answer to. Why was cannabis made illegal in the UK? Well, the truth is, it wasn't banned because of some sudden scientific discovery that it was dangerous. It was banned because of politics, pressure and control. Let me walk you through the real arc for what Spirit are giving me, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. How it actually became illegal. Cannabis didn't become illegal in Britain because Britain had a massive cannabis crisis. It became illegal because the UK got swept into international drug control politics, especially the global momentum driven by the US of A and international conventions. So what happened? Cannabis got pulled into the dangerous drugs category almost quietly. So let's go back to 1928. The UK folds cannabis into the law via an amendment to the Dangerous Drugs Act. And here's what should shock people. There was no huge public debate, no national emergency, no serious medical review. It was basically slid in off the back of international meetings and colonial reports, many of them loaded with fear, exaggeration and racialist narratives. The colonial lens, foreign, dangerous. A lot of early evidence didn't come from British hospitals. It came from British colonies, places where cannabis was associated with indigenous people, labourers, soldiers, the groups, empires, always tried to manage. So the plant gets framed not as medicine, but as moral degeneration. A foreign intoxicant, so means fear. And the irony, the British government already had a huge investigation into cannabis, the Indian Hemp Drugs Commission, and it concluded cannabis was largely harmless in moderate use and culturally normal. Those findings completely ignored, because this was never purely about health. It was about narratives and control. So, the moral, the kind of the panic era. If we fast forward, you see, now cannabis gets linked to youth culture, music scenes, anti-war movements, non-conformity, basically anything that makes governments nervous. And whenever a substance becomes associated with social change, the pattern repeats. Crack down harder. So the UK locks in modern enforcement under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, and that becomes the backbone of policy for decades. So the bit that people kind of forget, it used to be a normal medicine. So everything flips. Cannabis wasn't some fringe silent drug historically. It was a mainstream pharmaceutical product for decades. It was used in the 1800s and early 1900s for things like pain relief, insomnia, nervous agitation, muscle spasms and convulsions, appetite and digestion issues, mood and trauma symptoms. It wasn't smoked as drug culture. It was prescribed as tinctures, which is like alcohol, powders, pills, syrups, like any other medicine. Doctors liked it because it was considered low toxicity, hard to fatally overdose on, and basically broadly useful and everything. So what's changed? Not the plant. The world around it has. Synthetic pharmaceuticals show up. Easier to standardise, easier to patent, easier to profit from. So then prohibition arrives and research gets choked out. So all called off. So cannabis doesn't disappear because it failed. It disappears because it becomes politically inconvenient and economically uncompetitive. So now we come to the modern biological, which is where I really wanted to get to. The ECS reveal. So I'm going to tell you about what's ECS. So it gets wild. Humans have a built-in regulatory network called the endocannabinoid system, meaning your body produces its own cannabis-like molecules and it has receptors designed to respond to them. This helps regulate inflammation, immune signalling, stress responses, pain perception, sleep, appetite, memory, and neuroplasticity. Overall, homeostasis, internal balance. So, cannabinoids don't just do random stuff. They plug into the mastery control system that already exists in the body. That's why cannabis keeps showing up in research across so many areas, because it's interacting with the system that governs how the body stays stable. In the same pattern and formation, a bit like the flower of life on Earth. Here's the flower of life of the human body, matched to the cannabis is the flower of life. It's a perfect match, hand in hand. So does this mean cannabis is a cure for cancer? No. Not in humans. Not reliably. It's not proven. What it does mean and have stronger evidence for is symptom support in cancer care. Things like nausea, appetite, pain, sleep, sometimes modest, sometimes meaningful. And there's even more to come. And there are early signals in a few studies that cannabinoids might have a junction potential setting that could help not needing a cure. So here's the real scientific line. Cannabinoids can influence cancer, biology, inflammation, immune response, cell survival pathways. But influencing a system is not the same as eradicating a disease. So same story with dementia and Alzheimer's. There are promising mechanisms and some early clinical signals for symptoms like agitation and sleep, and a strong plausibility for neuroprojection through inflammation reduction. But prevention, cure, not proven. Yet. Now there's nicotine. Yeah, I'm going through fascinating drugs here, aren't I? Strange case. Nicotine is different. It targets the acetylcholine system. Attention, learning, memory. I have to look it up, I can't remember the word. I was doing so well. So the acetylcholine, yeah, that's it, dopamine. Let me pause that for a sec, so I'll go back. So nicotine would be different. It targets the acetylcholine system. Attention, learning, memory, dopamine. That's why it can sharpen focus and why there's a consistent protective signal in population research around Parkinson's. But nicotine comes with a serious cost. It's highly addictive and can push stress, psychology and cardiovascular load. So nicotine can be targeted brain tool, but it's not the same kind of thing as the whole body regulator with cannabinoids can be. So if cannabis is like tuning the system, nicotine is like turning the volume up. Useful but taxing. Now there's fluoride. Here a comparison and why did I come this way? So you made the comparison you see here because never dare to make. Why are some things socially approved as healthy, even when they feel biologically alien, while other things are demonstrated even when the body seems to recognise them themselves? Fluoride is in a totally different category. It doesn't plug into a regulatory network. It's a local chemical intervention, a surface level antimicrobial approach. Whereas cannabinoids interact with internal signalling systems that govern resilience. So the comparison isn't which is good or bad as a moral label. It's which one supports regulation and which one forces control from the outside. And also, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine. Where does it come in? So think about it. Ayurveda and Chinese medicine have always treated the body as a system, not a machine. They focus on balance, flow, regulation, digestion, stress, sleep, resilience. Patents, not just isolated symptoms. That's basically what modern systems biology is crawling back towards. After a long detour into reductionism, so no, it's not the kind of those symptoms were primitive. They were operating at the right level the whole time, but support the self-regulating network. And yes, once you bring economics into it, you see why the industrial model won't want paintable, scalable and profitable dominators. What's preventive and holistic? But What's the biggest message I'm trying to give from all of this? So if I summarise everything you did, what I've done from start to finish here, here's the truth. The body is not a machine to be fixed. It's a self-regulatory system to be supported. When you look through that lens, everything makes sense. Cannabis was criminalised more through politics and control than science. It was historically a normal medicine before prohibition. Cannabinoids matter because they interact with an internal regulatory system designed for homeostasis. Cancer and dementia claims need honestly influence in a real way, and cures are not proven. But nicotine is neurologically powerful but synthetically costly. Fluoride is narrow external intervention, not a scientific regulator. And ancient systems like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine were always playing the long game, strengthening the regulatory system, and the regulation and disease becomes less inevitable. Real health isn't created by fighting the body. It's created by restoring the intelligence of the systems that keep it in balance. So that's the thread, that's the whole story. And once you see health that way, you can stop asking, what do I kill? And you can start asking, what do I support? There is going to be a part 2 to this video. So I'm going to go into a lot more detail if anyone wants to see it with the facts I've only skimmed the surface with. You might be thinking, what the hell's fluoride doing and what I've talked about? And the nicotine, how does that really work? And, well, the cannabis, you didn't tell the real structure of it. How is it any benefit? We're just going to listen to you. So if you want that topic, go on to the second video. It's going to be a lot longer, though. It'll go into a lot more depth. And you will be honestly amazed. But I need to capture people's attention first if they're interested in that. Otherwise, they're never going to watch an hour and a half's worth of video. So I'll see some of you soon. Lots of love.